Samson, start பண்ணலாமா? It's 10. The simple man believes everything, but the prudent man gives thought to his steps. Quote, Proverbs chapter 40, verse 15. Respected Reverend Father Rector, Reverend Father Secretary, Reverend Father Principal, Honorable Professor Wilson, Principal Madras Christian College, the coordinators, Dr. Milton, Dr. Madhavan Jaccob, and the resource persons, Dr. Solomon, Dr. Ruben, and dear participants. Good morning and welcome. As I welcome you, I also thank you for the overwhelming response. Wherever we are, let us pause for a moment and invoke the blessings of the Lord Almighty. Dear Lord, as the events of the day start to unfold, we seek your clarity and your peace. Scripture reminds us that the more we seek you, the more we find you. We humbly ask you to shower our speakers of this day with knowledge and wisdom. May we observe these invaluable experiences and put into practice whatever we learn today. Amen. Research and teaching share the common goal of promoting knowledge. Research is a tool for building knowledge. In addition, research is a way to prove lies and to support truths. Your presence here is a reflection of your interest in this webinar. I am convinced that the presence of all of you will contribute to the value of these deliberations. The core objective of the workshop is to equip the research scholars with a set of skills and potentiality to undertake research very effectively. This morning, we have with us two speakers whom I have no hesitation in describing as exceptional, and it is an honor to have them for this webinar. The workshop consists of both theory and practicals. By the end of this webinar, you are expected to develop conceptual clarity and practical knowledge to undertake quality research, writing good research papers, field reports, and project proposals. With these few words, I welcome our beloved principal, who is known for his knowledge and wisdom, to deliver the welcome address and to introduce the speaker of the session, Dr. Wilson, Principal, Madras Christian College. Over to Reverend Father Principal.
Esteemed Speaker of the Day, Dr. P.Wilson, learned faculty members, research scholars, and ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all of you. Loyola extends a warm welcome to all of you to this webinar series on research methodology organized by the Office of the Dean of Research, Loyola College, Chennai. We are indeed surprised at the overwhelming response of all of you, and twice the team had to stop the registration. Thank you for your trust and confidence. The final count of registration stands at 13,600. This is phenomenal, and I'm sure you're all in for an excellent intellectual engagement. And we also thank and welcome Dr. R. Vijay Solomon and Dr. DrJohnMilton. Both are from Madras Christian College, for helping us in these coming days by handling sessions. I also thank our own faculty member, Dr. Jacob, for agreeing to step in to be a resource person for this webinar series. It is also my duty to congratulate and thank my internal organizing team, Dr. Madhavan, the Dean of Research, Dr. Milton, the head of the Department of Advanced Zoology and Biotechnology, and Dr. Jacob of the Department of Chemistry, for bringing this enviable team together for their meticulous planning. I wish you all an enriching learning experience. Now let me have the joy of introducing the resource person for the first webinar, Dr. P.Wilson, the Principal and Secretary of Madras Christian College, Chennai, an illustrious alumnus of Loyola College, Chennai. He studied in Loyola between 1989 to 91. We are really honored to have you, sir, here with us. Dr. P.Wilson has just recently been appointed as the 17th Principal of Madras Christian College, Chennai. Dr. P.Wilson has a unique blend of a researcher, academician, writer, trained musician, and theologian. What a combination. He received his PhD from IIT Madras and completed his postdoctoral research at the renowned Ben Gurion University in Israel. He also holds a degree in theology from the Serampur University. Dr. P.Wilson has been a principal investigator for the projects funded by UGC, DST, SERB, and United Board of Christian Education in Asia, and also been serving as a reviewer for the journals published by Elsevier, Springer, Wiley, and American Chemical Society. He has also been serving as a reviewer of research proposals submitted to DST, SERB, Ministry of Science and Technology, Tamil Nadu State Council for Higher Education, Chennai. Obviously, we are privileged to have such an experienced and well-endowed person to guide us in this entire webinar series. Apart from his global and national level contribution at the institutional level, as the head of the Department of Chemistry, he upgraded their laboratories into state-of-the-art facility and conceptualized Professor Edward Burns Center for Computational Instrumentation Facility, featuring 100 years of chemistry at Madras Christian College. Above all, he conceptualized and facilitated the curriculum design on Chemic Infotex data analytics. He has been serving as a contributory author to Education Times, run by Times of India, EDX, the Indian Express, and Education Plus, the Hindu, on educating millennials and on South Indian classical music in Times of India and Dinamani. He is a life member of Catalysis Society of India, life member of Association of Chemistry Teachers India, a life member of the Society for Advancement of Chemical Sciences and Education in Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research, Kalpakkam. He has published around 31 research articles in peer-reviewed journals of international repute, has guided 3 scholars for their PhD, 2 theses are submitted to the University of Madras, and defense is awaited. 5 more PhD students about to submit their thesis, conducted national level conferences and workshops sponsored by various national and international bodies. Sir, thank you very much for accepting to be with us. And obviously, these 2 days are going to be phenomenal for all of us. And let me have the joy of wishing all the participants an enriching and engaging academic pursuit over the last 2 days. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you, Father, for the nice introduction. And it's a joy and it's a privilege to come back to my alma mater. And after I became a principal, I think this is the first webinar that I'm presenting to Loyola College, because when Dr. Jacob invited me, I never had any hesitation to give the date, and immediately accepted because it is my own alma mater. And this particular topic is also close to my heart, and we have been trying this out with many students and sometimes with faculty members too. So I thought this would really be useful for many of you who are listening to this particular talk. And we are trying our level best to appeal to people who have started involving in the research in a primary level. Okay, thank you, the organizers, for having thought about this nice topic on research methodology, which has not been disseminated in many of the webinars. Only few webinars I've heard that it is a title like research methodology. And this is a very need of the hour. And I hope this experience for 2 days will be really beneficial to all of you. Shall I begin with my presentation now?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So my video will be cut off hereafter. I have titled my presentation today as Academic Writing and Manuscript Preparation. In general, scholarly writing or scientific writing or academic writing. These are the three names that are being used interchangeably when it comes to writing a manuscript and preparing the manuscript. So I chose this as academic writing because this term would appeal to the faculty members from science as well as from humanities. When I write scientific writing, the problem that I encountered is that many people think about it as about science writing. That means the content is science. When I say scientific, that means we are using our intellect and we are trying to write something in a way that is appealing to many stakeholders. So that is why it is called a scientific writing, but it is being misunderstood or misconstrued by many of the faculty members. So I thought I'll prefer this title called Academic Writing and Manuscript Preparation. And disclaimer, you should not blame me in the future. This talk presumes that you are a researcher and has some acquaintance with the research reporting to begin with. And also regarding students, if there are many students over here, this lecture will not appeal to students who have never ventured into research projects, like at least doing a master's project. They'll be able to understand what I'm saying because I'm beginning from that particular level, because within 1 hour, I need to complete the whole component of writing manuscript preparation. Right. Let me move on. Some of the common questions that are raised, some of the common questions that we came across in your questionnaires that you filled it up, we found out these are the following questions that we could come across with. And these questions are like, why research is emphasized on a teacher or a professor? How to give a construct title, or how to construct title of my research paper, long or short? Can a research statement in an article be in a question form? How to write systematic review of literature to publish a quality article? Are abstract and conclusion different, or they are same? Step-by-step procedure in writing a research article, and what is peer review? Why do we need to publish our papers in peer-reviewed journals? These are the few questions that I came across from the questionnaires that you filled, the questions that you filled it up and try to express your views. I hope I'll be able to answer some of the questions during the course of my talk. Why is research emphasized on a teacher or professor? I would like to say there are two schools of thoughts. Normally, in a college setup, like higher education setup, people used to have two kinds of thoughts. Two schools of thought. One is, this is a college of higher education, and hence we are not supposed to encourage doing research. We are primarily here as a faculty members who are primarily here to do a business of teaching. That's it. The other school of thought is, along with teaching, in a complementary capacity, every lecturer or every assistant professor is supposed to be involving in a research to a greater or a smaller capacity. I think this is a very important thing that you should always think. Some of my professors used to talk to me saying that you should concentrate only on teaching. You should not talk about research for at least 10 years or 15 years. I used to tell them that they are complementary. They are complementary to each other. If you try to cut off a person from doing a research, then he can never be an effective teacher. This is my school of thought, and mostly people accept to this particular second view that teacher should also be a researcher. Hence, his teaching can be authentic. So this is a thing that I would like to place before you. So remember, when I say researcher, I'm not saying that you should become a Nobel laureate. You should become a Nobel. No, that is not a point that I'm trying to derive here. I'm saying involving in a research in a smaller capacity or in a greater capacity. No, I'm not saying you should do a research in the order of IITs and IICs. No, that is not the point that I'm trying to drive towards. You should have a research aptitude, for which you should have some research questions in mind, some research problems in mind that can be picked up from everyday effort. Your classroom can be a laboratory for you to pick up your research question. I'm not saying you should go to the chemistry laboratory or physics laboratory where you have to do research. So in that sense, I point out that a teacher is a researcher. I think I've made myself very clear. And regarding the other questions, I think a part of my lectures, the lecture will be able to address those questions. So let me move on to the next slide. Now, many of you have started publishing in kind of journals where you pay 3,500 rupees or 2,500 rupees because the APA score demands number of papers publication. So keeping that in mind, the competition is very heavy to publish. And what happened over the period is those journals which are termed as predatory journals have become very popular at the cost of the real journals, the authentic and legitimate journals, which were very popular earlier. So for past 10 years, I could see that the awareness among the researchers were much on these predatory journals. We called as predatory, which you might not call that as predatory. That's why we had a question on, are you aware of predatory journals? Now, publishing is very difficult when it comes to legitimate journals. The reason is that now we are in a very historical dispensation where the acceptance rate is it's very, very below the historical levels. In those were the times where publishing in my own domain, maybe applied catalysis B or applied catalysis A, was not a big issue those times. That means you should have a proper research, you should have a proper data, proper interpretation, proper discussion. And if that is the case, it is not an issue. But the standards have been raised now because of the competition, which is very high. So that is why the manuscript acceptance rate is very less now. And as I said, sharp increase in number of manuscripts. Some of the reasons for rejection is this. This is what I'm going to address today now. Your content is very good. Maybe you've done a very beautiful research. You're trying to address a very important research question in your research domain, and that needs to be popularized. But what happens is, mostly for out of many reasons, the few reasons which really mark your innovation of publications is the style of writing, the format in which you're writing, some of the grammatical errors, some of the sentence structure. Sometimes your sentence starts starts at a particular place and goes to 4 to 5 lines and never ends. Sometimes your presentation issues. So these are all very important factors. So I would say more than a content, the issue that the manuscript writers are facing now is not a scholarly content, but it is a structure of the paper that you write. I think this is what is very important. So my present talk will be focused on how to rectify this particular issue of keeping your structure intact with the international standard. So sometimes the reviewer fatigue, when they look at your title, when they look at your abstract, when they look at your keywords, sometimes when they begin to read your introduction and the cover letter that you do, these are the 5 important kinetics, the important rate determining steps in your paper publication. Look at all these things, they reject the paper outrightly. Immediately they'll reject your papers. So your manuscript should not develop a reviewer fatigue. That's very, very important. Let me move on to the next slide. Look at that now. Peer reviews like this. We feel that all these guys are standing over there before my paper could get accepted. With one reason, the editor is with rejection already. He says he's trying to find out a reason, which is very obvious from the title and abstract, and says, no, your paper cannot be accepted. It is conforming. So see, he immediately rejects. Sometimes it escapes editor and it goes to the reviewer. There are 3 reviewers, 4 reviewers for some of the papers like ACS. Totally 4 reviewers are there, sometimes 5 reviewers are there if the journal is a reputed one. Now, after it goes to the reviewer gleans through the paper first, and he says, grammatical error, this paper cannot be accepted. That's one way. Sometimes reviewer goes through the English, if convinced, then he goes to the content and he says, no, it has to be rewritten and it sends back. Sometimes it comes back to you, minor correction, and finally, if you hear the news, maybe after 4 or 5 months that your paper is accepted, the joy that you gain is something that nobody can give it to you. I think this is a process. So peer review, when I say, always it is authentic. When you publish in the peer reviewed journals, sometimes you pay for publication processing fee. There are open access journals where publication processing fee is going to be demanded, but it will be peer reviewed. But make it sure that you publish in peer review. Because by peer reviewing, your authenticity, the knowledge that you disseminate to the whole world, it becomes very authentic, and you'll be referred back and forth by many of the authors, and your citation will increase. The visibility will be more. And peer review is the best way of publishing, because you will not know sometimes what you've done is right or wrong. So when it is critically analyzed by multiple perceptions of the reviewers, I think the authenticity and the longevity of your work will be more. Let me move on. Coming to the composition of the manuscript. Composition of the manuscript. This is a standard way of expressing the components of your scientific paper. I've just shown you a fishbone model. Look at the title, abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussion, conclusions, and acknowledgement. I think this is a format that normally we form. If you want me to put it in a very simple way, I can say this is IMRD. IMRD format. That's the introduction, methods, results, discussion, which includes conclusion too. This is a simple way of consolidating the reporting. So these are the things that we normally follow. Now coming to the process of writing, what I have done is I have gone through some of the papers and from LCV or Springer, I have tried to construct one particular slide which shows the order of your writing. I just tried to sequence and orchestrated what you're supposed to do. Then look at the number one. Number one is figures and tables. Remember, any researcher will have two notebooks with him. I would call two journals. Journal means it's not literal journals. I'm talking diary. We can call it as diary, research diary, or whatever way that you want to designate it as. No problem. So you should have two notebooks. One is every day. It's a primary information where you try to collect all your data and keep them as in the form of tables and figures, whatever it is. The other one is your literature references. Every day you do a literature review and you not only note down the exact wordings from the paper, but also you would add a paraphrasing, like your own idea, your own ideation that you would like to record every day. These notebooks are very, very, very important. I remember in my olden days when I was doing my research, I remember while writing my thesis, I was only depending on the other notebook where I noted down all my observations, sometimes inferences, sometimes whatever hypothesis that I developed based on the inferences, I noted down. And these things were helpful for me. I was not in need of referring to the original journals while writing because everything was posted in the notebook. So keep that in mind. The first thing is orchestrating or organizing all your figure tables for the title that you propose to write. So that is very, very important. That's the first thing that you're supposed to do. And normally what happens, people write title, people write abstract, people write introduction, and finally your introduction will never be connected to the results and discussion. That's a problem. So first thing that you are supposed to do is organize your figures and tables. Next thing is the materials and methods. Now here remember, when you go to materials and methods, you should know the purpose of materials and methods. When it comes to materials and methods, I'll try to explain the importance of that. Here, you have to be very careful in mentioning every details and every nuances of what you have done. Maybe even the instrument that you have made use of, you have to give details because the reader, one who reads the content, will be in a position to reproduce. So let me use this word for the number two. Materials and methods are for reproduction. Very important. First one, you have to organize. Number two is for reproduction. You have to keep it in mind. When I write a content, this content should be able to make the reader reproduce the work that I have done to validate it. So if that is reproduction, every detail should be noted down in materials and methods with the references, which we'll see in one of the slides that is going to come across. The third one is results. So materials and methods over, figures and tables are ready now. Now you're going to bring out the results from your tables now. You're going to bring out the results. Now you're going to categorize them. You're going to classify them and keep it in such a way that you can make the results interact with each other. Remember, you're supposing in chemistry, let me take an example of chemistry and you can try to identify with your own research domain. Supposing I have done I have synthesized the material and I have tried to characterize the particular material using a XRD, X-ray diffraction. And I've also tried to characterize the material with XPS. And it so happens that XRD and XPS shows the similar conclusion. Initially, I will try to derive the results from XRD and write down. And I'll try to derive later I'll try to derive the results from XPS and write down. Then later I'll try to make these two results to interact with each other to come to an objective conclusion. Remember, that is very, very important. So the results and discussion plays a vital role where you try to make the results interact with each other. If you make one conclusion, that one conclusion should be validated and supported by multiple characterization techniques or from multiple perceptions, including literature review. Sometimes if you do not have any experimental evidence, what you can do is you can try to collect some paper which is trying to support your conclusion. So you need not go to the laboratory once again and do something and try to support your work. Rather, you can try to find out the particular author also says the same thing. You can say. So that way you can try to validate. So research and discussion are knit together, very, very important. I may not be doing much justice to discussion in this lecture because of want of time. But anyway, later we can try to look into this particular aspect. Then comes conclusion. Sometimes the conclusion is confused with abstract. So I would only point this particular point here and move on, because later when it comes to conclusion, I'll be showing some examples so that you can understand very easily what a conclusion is all about. So conclusion is not similar to abstract. Keep that in mind. Conclusion is not similar to abstract. It is completely different. Abstract is something called brief summary, but conclusion is something different, where you're trying to collect all the informations together. Your mind, if you ask, what is your paper on? If anyone asks, something is impressed in your mind, that is going to be conclusion. You say, yes, I have done something. I found out something novel, something objective that can be disseminated to the whole world. I think if you can state your conclusion in one sentence, that could be expanded for a conclusion material. Always this one-liner is very, very important. I used to always mention in my class students, ask them to come up with one-liner for a given class. No whole class can be consolidated and to make as one-liner. That is a very powerful tool to describe the whole class. You will never forget it. Then now you're starting with your marketing starts. Remember, so far figures and tables, materials and methods, results, discussion, conclusion. These are all real work that you've done. Like you are trying, it's like, if you consider movie making, these are all your screenplays are ready now. Your plot is ready, figures and tables, your plot is ready, and what camera you're going to make use of, materials and methods is ready now. Now you're going to see how your screenplay is going to be all about. Results and discussion is ready. Now the climax scene is ready now. Now you have to market it. Now coming back to the second half, introduction, abstract, keywords, title. These are all very important marketing strategies. Remember that. If you keep that in mind, I think your perception will be very good in preparing a manuscript. So this is how the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are a real preparation, and 6, 7, 8, 9 are real marketing strategies. If you keep that in mind, I think you'll be able to write a beautiful manuscript. Let me show the second half. These are the marketing strategy. Remember, the way you communicate more than what you communicate. Remember, the way you communicate matters. Here exactly we fumble and we find it very difficult to market our content. Many of the papers miss the quality journals only because their cover letters are not drafted properly. Their abstract is not brief and comprehensive. Being brief and being comprehensive it's a challenge, and that too within 200 words or 150 words. And sometimes you have not selected the keywords properly, and sometimes your title is not indicative enough. I'm not talking about descriptive title. Always you should think of an indicative title. And then your introduction is not simply concise, 3 paragraphs, that's all. I'll show you what are the components of introduction. Now remember, always these 5 elements are marketing components. So as I said, these are real preparation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All these things are, your screenplays are ready, your plot is ready, and you're ready, your director is ready for shooting. Now here your marketing is going on now. If you do this properly, I think you will not bother about your material manuscript getting bumping back. I think that would not be an issue. Even if it gets bumped back, I think you'll be able to manage it quickly because only a few minor things will be there to address. Now let me move on. Materials and methods. We know Michael is known for science fiction, and many of his science fiction techno thrillers are filmed and they are into movies now. So now he says, in science, consensus is irrelevant. What is relevant is reproducible results. Once again, when I said materials and methods, the keyword that you need to keep in mind is materials and methods is reproducibility. Remember that. Once you remember this, your writing will be very logical and it'll be concise. At the same time, it'll be descriptive. Let me move on. Now, how will you do materials and methods? Begin writing the materials and methods while you are performing your experiments. Remember that. Always it so happens that you don't record your observations in your notebook. I said 2 journals you have. One of them for primary data, where you will record all your materials, your experiments every day that you do, or survey that you do, or the interview that you conduct for your research purpose. And all those things will be recorded, transcribed from the video. All those things are primary materials. No, you have to do it while you are involving in that things. After that, if you do it, you will forget everything. The nuances will be forgotten. So keep that in mind. Next is start with the general information that applies to the entire manuscript, and then move on to specific experimental labels. So always introduction or experimental method or whatever it is, you always have this kind of a logical coherence where you start with a broader perspective, then you go down to a very specific perspective. I think this way the pedagogy is very good, where the audience, the reader will be able to clearly follow you properly. Always you follow this in manuscript writing, even introduction, you start in a very broader way where you present the setting and then go on to your research problem. This is the way you are to follow. Describe in the order in which the methods are described in the body of the text. Remember, materials and methods, you have to be following some kind of a sequence, very important. So whatever sequence that you give in your body of the text, that discuss and discussion, that needs to be followed. First, for example, if you're talking about XRD, X-ray diffraction in chemistry, so you have to use X-ray diffraction methods in your materials and methods first. You have to describe that nuances. Suppose you are going secondly to XPS or something else, the same thing should be. So the order is very important. Mapping is very important. You map always from the beginning. You keep mapping your whole work. The continuity is very good. The transition is smooth. Always include citations for the procedures. Always I see when I review the papers, I see they will write even others' work as if they have done it. I repeat, even if when you try to write others' works, for example, you're trying to borrow a particular preparation methods from someone else, you would write as if you have done it. Now, it clearly makes a confusion in the heart of a reviewer. And he says, is it your work? Have you identified this novel method, synthetic method, or you borrowed some of it from some other papers, or entirely? So now this creates a confusion, and sometimes papers are sent back only for these reasons. Remember, meticulously you have to prepare your materials and methods, and always whenever you write a paper, you have to construct references in between. You have to build the whole paper. Your text have to be built completely with the references. It's simple way. You can say something, but nobody is willing to accept it. But if you try to say something through the mouth of someone who has established in that particular field, whatever you want to say, it's a politics. I'm talking about research politics. If you want to say something in the mouth of someone who has already established, the value added to it will be more. Otherwise, you can simply think this way. Now you are saying something else which has already been accepted by the community in the whole world, and you are also saying the same thing. So you prefer to say through the mouth of the community rather than your own. Always think anything new that you would like to develop or derive, don't try to derive it on your own, but try to derive it with the people power. This is very important politics. Or you call this politics, you can also call it as a political science. So always remember this. Include citations in between. I'll show you when I show you the abstract and introduction, how citations are very necessary to be built inside, integrated within the text, always, so that your validity will be more when you present it to the wider community. And again, statistical state. Sometimes I see, they'll say, we follow t-test, that's all. There won't be any description. We assume that the reader will know that. Never ever make an assumption while writing, because you didn't remember, it has to be reproducible. Okay, avoid discussing the pros and cons of certain methods or results of any kind. Don't try to be critical where in your methodology, materials and methods, don't try to criticize someone. That is not a place. Maybe introduction might be a place for that, where you can try to critically analyze the literature review and show that these methods have limitations and hence I have come up with a new method. But materials and methods are not a place where you can try to discuss the pros and cons. These are some of the mistakes that people do normally. So always you need to be very concise while writing, because you can just check this. Once you finish it, there is a checklist. Look at the checklist. Is there sufficient detail so that the experiments can be reproduced? The first question is this. The second question, have I overdone by accidentally? Excess information. Normally the natural tendency of us to speak more, write more. And speaking less is very, very difficult. Minimum words, maximum communication. I think this is where you have to practice this. Minimum words, maximum communication. We are always prone to speak more because our mouth is very big, our tongue is longer. Is there always excess information that could be removed without affecting the interpretation? They always do this. For that, you have to have a template. Like, if you want to write an abstract, 200 words, you can create a template where after 200 words, you will not be able to write anything. So you will naturally go back and to decide to eliminate or delete certain portions which you find as unnecessary. The same way you can try to practice methods, materials and methods too. Or all appropriate controls have you mentioned. Control is nothing but reference. So you have to always mention the reference or control experiments, because nobody will know on what reference have you done this particular experiment. I hope you understand. People who involve in the research will know what do I mean by control. Are all appropriate citations included? I always say build every component of your IMRAD with citation. That's very, very, very important. Excepting abstract. Abstract, you're not supposed to give citation is one school of thought. However, I find many of the papers are containing the citations, even in abstract, which is not looking good. Is the source of each reagent? It is only for chemistry. You have to mention where have you procured that particular reagent from. How good is your discussion? As I said, I'm not going to spend much time on discussion. One thing I would like to say, sometimes we are tempted to conclude too much from a limited data. You have only one evidence, but you will present as if you have done 10 experiments or 10 different complementary evidences you've got and made a conclusion. We try to objectivize it, the subjective experiences. I think this is a philosophical problem that normally we have. Let it not reflect in your manuscript. The overreaching conclusion, it provokes the editor, it provokes the reviewer. Always keep remembering this in mind. The moment they look at your introduction, the moment they look at your abstract, they'll make a conclusion. Your marketing strategy begins there. That is why we have kept that as the last part of your manuscript preparation. So the moment they look at the abstract, they'll know you are trying to overreach your conclusion, and they'll throw off your paper. Immediately it'll get rejected at the first try. Next, mention the limitations of the study. Always we are afraid. Sometimes we have apprehensions. If I show my limitations, what would the reviewer think? If I show my weaknesses, what would the reviewer think? Actually, the reviewer and editor are willing to assess the limitations of this work so that they can get the idea of the scope of your work. When the other reader reads your paper, they'll know there are some gaps, knowledge gaps available in this particular work. I can extend your work. So your work can be extended only if you mention the limitations. That's very, very important. So be genuine in mentioning the limitations of your work, which is a part of a scope, so that your validity will be increasing. And you also can mention what are the measures you have taken to address that, mitigate that limitation. That's very, very important. So that the reader will not try it back once again. He'll try something else. So this is very, very important from the reader's perspective, as well as the reviewer and editor's perspectives. These are the things that I would like to place before you. And mostly I have seen the discussion part is not analytical. It is only consolidation or compilation of data. I think this we need to avoid. Now, I'll give one more slide on that, so that you can try to understand what is research and discussion. They should start by describing in simple terms what the data show. You have already collected the data. Your figures and tables are ready now. In simple terms, you try to explain the trend that you observe. And they should make reference to statistical analysis, such as significance or goodness of it. These are very, very important. Many of the papers do not have that as a component. Most of the discussion part, the article misses the critical, and this is what I have been repeatedly saying. Don't think that you're trying to dump all your compilations as research and discussion. Nobody will be interested in it. If you ask a question why for every observation or every inference that you make, I think that will be the analysis. If you make a judgment, if you make an evaluation, I think that is the value of your discussion part. If the discussion is not analytical, I tell you, there is every possibility of rejection of your manuscript. So keep this for research, materials and methods. I gave a keyword called, what did I say? Reproducibility. Yeah, reproducibility. Now here I would give a keyword called analytical. So when I talk about research reporting or research and discussion, remember analysis is very, very important. Do not try to establish the fact from the data analysis and trends in isolation. As I said earlier, you cannot keep your conclusions without references. You cannot conclude anything without building the references. Very important. You cannot say, I have seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 evidences from my own work. I'm very sure this is a part of it. At least try to say that some of the authors who are already established from the scene, normally when you send it for a reviewing, sometimes it goes to the established reviewer who would always get hurt, saying that I have worked in this particular area for so many decades. You never even bothered about mentioning my paper in the introduction or in the methodology or in the research and discussion. Sometimes this serves as a basis for the editor or reviewer to send back your paper and reject it. Keep that in mind. They are also human beings. They are not machines. And not for that reason, for scientific writing itself, you need to discuss your elements that you interpreted, that you inferred, not in isolation, but along with a band of references. Keep that in mind. It's very, very important. If more you try to build your discussion part with references, the validity is going to increase. So if you increase the number of references, more and more your validity is going to be augmented. Now, best discussion is built on references coherently to validate the new findings from the data analysis of trends. Let me go to the next slide. Data plots, figures, and tables. Sometimes we give less importance to this. Remember, a figure is worth 1,000 words. Now, if you ask me, how would I read a paper when it comes to me? Normally, my senior used to teach me, don't get into the text. Look at the title, read the abstract, read the conclusion, look at the figures and tables. This is the gleaning through. We call it as gleaning through. The first impression you get is only through this method. So if you try to put yourself in the shoes of a reviewer or editor, the way of writing, the way you give importance to each element will completely change. Your perception will change. So the first gleaning through will be done only this way. People will be interested, the reviewers and the editors will be interested in going through your figures and tables. Sometimes we have aversion for numbers, but I don't think that way the same, the editors and reviewer also would behave the same way. But remember that figures and tables speak a lot. So a figure is worth 1,000 words. Most of the editors and reviewers, they have this habit. And no illustrations should duplicate. Sometimes what we do is, in the text where the information is given, where you describe it, and also you would have illustrations in the form of schematic representation. I think when you say brief and concise, you should have a strategy. Certain things you are trying to give in a schematic representation, which are self-explanatory, need not be repeated in the text, which will never market your paper. Because the reader will get confused, or reader will he'll feel when he reads the paper, even the editor and the reviewer too. So don't try to repeat the illustrations which are given in a schematic representation or a graphical abstract, once again in a detailed description in the body of your paper. That's very, very important. And figures and tables, it should be self-explanatory. The way when they look at your figures and tables, all that indications, designators should be present. Most of the papers, when they come back, one of the note that the reviewer makes is that your x-axis is not labeled properly, your y-axis is not labeled properly. Sometimes you say arbitrary units, sometimes it is not absolute, and you're too much of cluttering in your data. You put all the data together in one particular box, and it really provoking us not to look at the data. These are the certain things that you need to be aware of while preparing your figures and tables in case of results and discussion. So third slide is on this. I've given only 3-4 slides on results and discussion. So remember, take much care. Keep thinking, how can you appeal to the reviewer, editor, and reader who are stakeholders? These 3 stakeholders needs to be appealed. Very important. So your figures and tables, the creativity that you involve in representing your data is very, very, very important. I'll give one more slide on infographics. Sometimes, for example, I use this. You can try to extend it for your own work. If you're from humanities background, you can think of something else. But pictorial representation is objective one. It's common for everyone. Infographics is a content marketing strategy. This content marketing strategy is a keyword in Google. You can try to find out. Infographics is a content marketing strategy, is my synthesis. If you want to market your content, it's always important to make a cartoons. And nowadays, it was not a practice earlier. I remember for 10 to 20 years, the practice is that sometimes journals ask you for a graphical abstract rather than a text. And sometimes there is a competition for a graphical abstract. If a graphical abstract is too good, that it communicates just from the graphical abstract, the whole content or the mechanism or the philosophy that you are trying to evolve just from the content itself, then they'll conduct a competition. They'll say your cartoon has been selected for the cover page. Many times we have seen that. Once I have got an experience where my students' content was selected, and they asked, are you giving permission for your content to be a cover page, in cover page? So this is something happens with every manuscript preparation, every researcher. So remember, this cartooning is very, very important. You can be very creative. Look at this now. This is the TEM image that we have got. So my own student has defined a mechanism. He constructed his own mechanism. So he said, so I envisage this way. This is how my precursor has worked, and this is how things have happened, and finally this is how my nano rods have been formed, and this is how they are completely defined after growth, and this is how I see. So retrospectively, if you see, you can understand the logic here. Now, the whole thing is very self-explanatory. Looking at the very first site will tell you, oh, this is how the mechanism. Instead of reading the text, Instead of wasting your time and understanding the vocabulary, sentence formation, if you give a graphical abstract, that speaks a lot. Remember that. Let me move on. Synthesis methodology. You can also use a flowchart as a technique, infographic, where your methodology can easily be disseminated to the community quickly. So I have shown how I have taken one precursor here, I've taken another precursor here, how these two have been mixed, and how they have finally, we have got the whole material and calcined it at 600 degrees. I think you can use this. And tables, sometimes you make errors in making tables. Look at this now, 3,42%, and everywhere there's a percentage here. This is not the way you try to construct your table. And look at the right way of doing it. Percentages here, given here, and always significant figures are taken into consideration, and you say 81.4. And sometimes you say 2.5 here, and you say 58.42 here. This is meaningless. Remember, this is important. This is playing an important role. Decimal separators, sometimes dots are important, not commas, and position of units and its inadequate use. You see the below now, how these things make chaos when you publish a paper. Coming to the conventions, taxonomic nomenclature, measurements. I think it's a big topic. I just want to give a brief introduction to this. For example, if you're working in microbiology or biology, you'll have a World Register of Marine Species or European Register of Marine Species. So you have to follow the designation accorded by them or appreciated by them or recognized by them. This is very, very important. And if you are in chemistry, you have to follow IUPAC or IUPAC-IUB. Their nomenclature you have to follow. Units, always say units. Remember, these are very, very important in research reporting. When you say research reporting is a keyword, go through the Google and find out research reporting. You'll get a lot of information regarding this. And to avoid inadequate reporting, I'm just giving you a certain tips to you. Just note down, CONSORT is for clinical trials, Consolidated Standards of Reporting Trials. There is one page where CONSORT is the one which is trying to give you all methodologies, the way you are supposed to report, and this is completely accepted by the reviewers and editors. So when you report in the methodology that you follow the guidelines of CONSORT, that itself will speak a volume. So design, analysis, and interpretation in case of RCT, randomized controlled trial, can be copied or can be followed from CONSORT. Now instead, I'll give you this web page, www.equator-network.org. Note down. I'll give some time for you to note down quickly. www.equator-network.org, where you find out a lot of other guidance. Even economic evaluations, they have a guideline. Cheers. If you're from Department of Economics, you can use Cheers. Quality improvement studies, there is one thing called Square. Then animal preclinical studies, again. Qualitative research. So for all study protocols, you have all guidelines available. Please go through this. It's a very famous one. So definitely you'll get a lot of information by going through this. My scope is not to go in detail on all these aspects. I'm coming to the conclusion now. As I said earlier, conclusion is different from abstract. Conclusion should reflect the hypothesis of your work. That's very important. Sometimes we try to copy and paste from the results. I have seen many of reviewing experience. Some of the same lines which are copied and pasted in the conclusion, saying that they have constructed the conclusion. Remember, you are supposed to consciously write conclusion, first organizing in your mind and then reflecting it in your paper. You have to organize your conclusion in mind. Something that impresses your mind, something that strikes your mind, that's very important. It's a brief summary. When I say conclusion is a brief summary, don't get confused with abstract. Abstract is a brief summary, but the first line of a conclusion is a brief summary. That you have to always begin your conclusion with the summarizing sentence. That is very, very important, because you can never give a seamless transition without summarizing the work that you've done. Always brief summary should be a first part of your conclusion. If you take 10 to 15 conclusions from different papers and analyze, you'll come up with this particular. That is what I have done. Brief summary should be a part of your conclusion. Next is, what is the uniqueness of your work? If you ask me, what novelty that I have found out? Any ideation is new? Can I try to objectivize it? Can I try to generalize the whole the work that I have done? So what is that? Novelty or objectivity or generalizability? That should be one of the components of your conclusion. I'm not saying that's the second one. Maybe you can keep it a third one or fourth one, but that should be one of the components of a conclusion, because any reviewer will be looking into conclusion, because they will not be reading the body of a text, sometimes gleaning through. They will not look into the whole results and discussion. First, they want to get an impression. So they will read your conclusion. I have seen many of the conclusions are useless. I'm sorry to say this. Many of the conclusions are useless. That means you can never ever try to come at get any impression from the conclusion. You will see it is very mediocre. It will be repetition of your research and discussion, and nothing would evolve as unique or novel or objective from the conclusion. Sometimes you ought to mention the implications of your research findings through extension of your hypothesis. And you can also talk about your positives, you can talk about your negatives, and future, what are the prospects of your work? These are fine. Now, let me, instead of talking about this, remember, brief summary, I'm repeating, unique or novel ideation that emerges, implications of your research, or any limitations of your research you can mention, or prospects. How can you expand your work? Now, I will show you some examples here. Look at this conclusion. I'm analyzing this critically. The first part, as I said, summary statement. Here I used a brief summary here. So now I'm using summary statement here. These are all interplay, word interplay, just word change, interchange of words. In the present investigation, hydroxyapatite nanoparticles have been successfully synthesized using L-arginine as a crystal growth. It's a very standard text which you have been used to generally. So don't forget to place the summary statement in the conclusion without fail. And see, the orders of this one would have been changed, but you can see findings. The findings means it is not the same way you present the findings in the abstract should be here. Here, the findings are presented in a different way. That means you are now, while starting your work, you were in a different dispensation. Now completing your work, you are in a different dispensation. So that needs to be clearly brought out in the findings. You see, this present study demonstrates that one can consciously manipulate the morphology. So I'm just showing you the possibilities of manipulating the whole. This is what I have done. Next, novelty, the unique feature of this investigation. So the whole thing about the novelty. Let me not read all the sentences here because some of you are maybe from the humanities background. And you see here, hypothesis is extended here. We hope that the concept in general may be extended for the synthesis of any material possessing charged reactive growth. So I've given this method, this philosophy that I have evolved can be applied to any other ways where if you have any charged species with you, you can try to use this particular method. So I'm trying to extrapolate it. I think my hypothesis is extrapolated here. And finally, I'm giving you prospects here on how different ratios or future extension. You can say future of this work, the future problem, the prospects of this work can easily be projected here. So now you can see that all the components are there in the construction of conclusion. This makes a conclusion. If you compare this with abstract, definitely you will find a difference. Many times people ask, I see the same kind of scaffolding for both abstract and conclusion. No, never ever. Maybe summary statement will be same. Maybe findings might be similar, not same. But the way you write conclusion should be completely different because the reviewer, I had an experience with one of the reviewers who really criticized me left and right for my conclusion. From there, I started learning abstract is different from conclusion. I'm showing you introduction. Look at the introduction. I said introduction. Again, I have tried to make a scaffolding or templating. I have constructed this looking at the different introduction, looking at different papers that I have read in these lines. So I have constructed this particular slide. Now, you might ask me, sir, what is the introduction? How the introduction should look like? Now, supposing if I ask you, why are you doing this work? That question can be answered this in the particular significance of problem. The first point of your introduction should be introducing to the reader the context or the setting of the particular research issue or research problem or research question that you're trying to address in that paper. So you have to bring the research setting very clearly, the context you have to bring it. There is a context. Supposing if I'm working on a particular reaction, I could say the industries, now this particular industries are proliferating and there is a demand for this particular product and this requires a research and development in these areas. So I'm trying to introduce a setting now here. I'm trying to bring the context here. And then I'll say, I'll convince the author that you have to read my content for sure because it's very important. Even I started marketing, though it's very important part of my plot. But even from the plot, I said introduction is a marketing strategy. Remember, it's a very important thing. So I started marketing the introduction now. So I have finished all my screenplay is ready now. Now movie can be screened now. My marketing strategy started now before screening the movie. Now look at this now. Status of the issue. Now, what is the current status of your research issue? You have to say, now so-and-so has worked on this literature report and he has found out this one, but still there are some issues. I'm analyzing the report now, critically analyzing. He has not addressed this particular aspect from my perspective. I feel that needs to be addressed. So I found out a knowledge gap now. I have found out a conflict here. So I say some controversies are there. Though there are some work that have been carried out here, but I find, critically analyzing, I find some knowledge gap, some conflict, some controversies needs to be plugged in now. So now I'm evolving based on significant status, analysis, and conflict, and now I have started evolving a problem now. Looking at the literature, I'm evolving a statement now. From the statement, I'm finding out my study plan. It's a preliminary study, hypothesis. What is hypothesis? I'll show you in the next slide what is hypothesis quickly. Once my study plan is evolved, then I'm talking about objective. This is the third paragraph. No, these two are third paragraph. So if you ask me how many paragraphs that you can use for your introduction, as I mentioned in one of my slides, that you can have 3 paragraphs. So maybe your significance can be 1 paragraph. Status, analysis, and conflict can form a 2nd paragraph. And your problem statement, hypothesis, objective can form a 3rd. I repeat once again, your significance, status, analysis. Your significance can be 1 paragraph. Status, analysis, gap, conflict can form a 2nd paragraph. And problem statement, hypothesis, and objective can form a 3rd paragraph. Keep remembering, if you write too much, no one will read. We have a attention crisis, so people will not be willing to read. Within 3 paragraphs, you should market your content. That's very, very important. Now, as I asked you, what is hypothesis? If you ask people from humanities, they have different understanding. But let me put my understanding across to you and try to interpret in your own way. Now, you're reading a literature survey. Okay, you're reading a lot of papers. And you have certain prior knowledge within yourself. So your literature, you are connecting your literature with the prior knowledge that you have. That leads to critical thinking now. Now, you're trying to use your prior knowledge, your literature survey, your critical thinking is ready. Now something is evolving out of this. That is called speculation. Speculation is supported by your literature. So that is called reasonable speculation. So your reasonable guess or educated guess. This is called hypothesis. This is the 3rd paragraph of your introduction where you say, because of this, I have evolved this particular method. Maybe your objective and scope will be a part of your hypothesis. If you want me to paraphrase hypothesis so that you can understand, I'll use this slide. Look at this now. It can be called as an educated guess. It can also be called as an informed speculation. It can be called as a proposal with limited evidence. Proposal with limited evidence. Sometimes you would have done a preliminary study where you would have got one particular results and you are ready now to write a paper or write a proposal. So with one evidence, you are very sure that multiple evidence will definitely support this particular evidence. So with a limited evidence, you are trying to hypothesize. You're saying my study plan is the limited evidence is this, and I'm sure that it can be extrapolated with multiple evidences based on this primary evidence. So that is called as hypothesis. It connects your prior knowledge and your pilot study. Prior knowledge and pilot study. So these are the paraphrasing way you can try to understand. So now I said last paragraph. If you want to understand, sir, what are you talking about hypothesis? Sometimes you can understand this way. The last paragraph, in the present investigation, an attempt has been made. Memory, it is there in your memory. Remember, sometimes you use this, sometimes people use different sentences now. But this is where you can try to place your hypothesis. 3rd paragraph, right? Now, what is not an introduction? I said, what is introduction? What is not introduction? I'm going to complete it quickly because already my time is up. So I'm conscious of my time. I'll be going a bit faster. What is introduction? Introduction is not simple compilation. It is not consolidation. It is a broader overview of the content, but a specific outline. As I said, it has to be analytical. Like a research and discussion, your introduction should be analytical in nature. Look at the introduction. After completing introduction, check whether you have mapped your knowledge gap and your outcome. Sometimes as a humanities researcher, you would have evolved a model, you would have evolved a mechanism or a policy or a material or an artifact. Now your outcome should map with the knowledge gap. You say, I had this problem in the literature and that is addressed here. So business is done properly, checklist. So that whether that is reflected in introduction or not, check that. Your narrative should be very compelling. That should convince the reader the knowledge gap is addressed. There should be a seamless transition between each paragraph, 1, 2, and 3. First paragraph on significance, second paragraph on your knowledge gap and literature review, third paragraph on hypothesis should be seamlessly traveled. That's very, very important because the reader will get provoked. Your study plan should provide the way out. And as I said earlier, you start from the broader overview and narrow down later in the third paragraph. Your first paragraph should be a setting, which should be a broader one. Third paragraph should be a very specific outline. That's very important. When I say critical analysis, what do I mean? Supposing if you ask me this question, I'll try to address this word criticality. What is criticality? Is a multiple perception of a given scientific truth from varied dimensions. Only one truth is perceived by 5 people in a 5 different way. So that is why the discussion in philosophy comes whether truth is absolute or relative. Sometimes we end up with this discussion. Truth is absolute or relative. Remember, criticality is a multiple perception. The same problem can be viewed by different people in different way. Now, if you try to put yourselves in the shoes of different people and multiple personalities and view the whole issue, now you'll get a beautiful solution for an issue. That is called criticality. Okay, if you say that I don't understand your words, let me put another way. It is perceiving the spirit of the author rather than the words of the author. I repeat, the perceiving the spirit of the author rather than the words of the author. Supposing in Tamil we say, "Odambu eppadi irukku." This is a literal word. I can manipulate the stimulus variation. I can say, "Enna odambu eppadi irukku?" That's one way. I can, with the concern, I can ask, "Eppadinga odambu eppadi irukku?" Now, the same literal words have different meanings because the spirit is completely different. The words are the same, the spirit is completely different. So, critically analyzing. Though the reader or the one who listens to me, he can easily understand not by my words, but looking at the spirit. Okay, if you say that you don't understand, let me try to use another way. Digging out what is not written in a paper or hidden in a paper, or what is less interpreted in the manuscript. One of my students called Janani, I think there were many students, I can just quote one student here, and she said in one of the continuing assessments, she brought a research paper from the net by a Chinese author and says, "Sir, I have read this paper. They have done this reaction, they got a yield. But one thing which I found out, they have not explained the mechanism. So I find this paper is not correct. I found this knowledge gap as a leveraging point or capitalizing point. So I'm going to write a mechanism for this research work, the particular paper, based on the data they have given." That means he has written the paper, she has written the paper in lieu of the author. So this is criticality. Next one, perceiving beyond the manuscript. You can say this fellow has not written, but if you look at the whole essence of this paper is really talking about that. This is the way criticality. I think your introduction, your research and description should speak the criticality. Now, the last part of your hypothesis, sometimes objective and scope. Sometimes when you're writing a proposal also, we get sometimes confused. Why? Because objective is only a single line, single point agenda. Your aim and objective are same. So sometimes people use objective, sometimes they use aim. So remember, towards the end of the third paragraph, you say the present work is directed to this particular aspect. And what is the scope? You say scope is the limitation. Scope is concerning the specific boundaries in this particular aim. What are the different modes that you are going to, modus operandi that you are going to make up? What is the SOP that you are trying to plan? Now, all those things are scope. So that if anyone asks, normally in the seminar that we present, when some question is asked, which is very tricky, how will we escape? We'll say this is beyond the scope of the presentation. In the classroom, when the teacher is asked questions, the teacher is not having a presence of mind. No, when the student asks, we can simply escape saying, this is beyond the scope of the syllabus, my students. Beautiful escaping sentence. So scope talks about the limitation of your content. Now I'm giving an example once again. Look at the introduction now. We have talked about introduction. I've just analyzed the introduction from a paper which is published in 2015. And look at that. As I said, the first part of the introduction, background or a context is given here in this particular paragraph. Okay. Now this fellow has 3 paragraphs, as I said earlier, but still we can find out some problems in the paper. Second, he has chosen to go into the statement of research problem in the second one. Okay, fine. And look at this now. He is talking about research question here. Significance is coming here. Normally, I used to say significance should be in the first paragraph, but he has orchestrated or sequenced his significance in the third or fourth items here. He says it is quite fierce amongst all the good quality papers that are submitted to journals, and it is therefore a paramount importance. So significance is given over here. And research question: don't you think that your work deserves to be judged on its scientific merit, rather than to be rejected for poor quality of writing. As I said in the first slide, sometimes your scientific merit is good, but the strategy is very bad. Your structure is very bad. So now they are bringing that is a research question. That means in many of the research paper, the structure is bad. So that is why this particular paper has been written. So he's bringing the research question here. And third paragraph, objective comes here. With this in mind, we present here a step-by-step guide to writing a scientific article. The objective is here. And they also try to describe the hypothesis here. We will start out by outlining the main sections of the article, and will then describe in greater detail the main elements that should feature. This is all description hypothesis. And also they say implications. What does it implicate? They say this guide aims to help young researchers with little experience or on writing to create a good quality. So they are trying to imply. And finally, they are coming to limitations. That means scope, literature review. One thing that I observed after critical analysis that this paper, the literature review, has not been critical in nature, number one. Number two, the literature reports are not used to build the introduction. They are found only 1 to 7 literature here. You can see here, only at the end. But what I have been advocating from the beginning is these 7 references, or if they are beautifully integrated into the first paragraph, 2 references, second paragraph, 3 references, and here some 4 references or 3 references, beautifully and orchestrated the whole introduction. I tell you, the reader will be happy, the editor will be happy, the reviewer will be happy, and the validity and the authenticity with which you're writing introduction will speak volumes. So this is the problem that I have analyzed from this particular introduction, which I chose for this particular analysis. I'm showing you another introduction here. Look at this now. This is very good with respect to construction of references. 2017 paper, 17 paper, and 16 paper, 15 paper, beautifully constructed. Maybe 2 paragraphs. It can be made as 3 paragraphs also. But no, only I'm showing you a positive aspect. I'm not trying to analyze this further with respect to other things. You can take into consideration this particular one for other aspects. So second one is very good. I think you can follow this method of building your references in between the paragraphs and trying to sequence and orchestrate your introduction beautifully on first paragraph on significance, background, context, and second paragraph on your research problem, and third paragraph on your hypothesis. This is the beautiful way of writing economically. I should say economic writing introduction, where within 3 paragraphs you will convince the editor, reviewer, and the reader. And I've given one more example too in the recent paper. Look at this now. This is synthesis, properties, and applications of graphene oxide, reduced graphene oxide, and their nanocomposites. Now, as usual in the introduction, context and setting is here, and beautifully built. First reference, second reference, third reference, fourth reference, and the sentence formation also based on the references now. So you have to first, when you write introduction, you have to keep you have to outline, you have to prepare. You prepare an outline with these 3 paragraphs in mind. First paragraph is on your significance and background setting. So collect all the papers regarding that separately. And second paragraph, your research problem you are going to go, conflict you are going to show, or limitations you're going to show. Keep all the papers separately. And third paragraph on hypothesis. So keep all those papers separately. Now you keep all those papers separately, you can easily build your construction of introduction, easily appealing to the audience. So this is how I've shown you challenge and limitation they have shown here, research problem they have shown in the first paragraph itself, and sometimes research question in the second paragraph, and literature review is beautifully given over here. And you see references are tagged consistently throughout the introduction. This is a positive aspect. And the last paragraph here, hypothesis is built, an aim and scope. I think if you write the introduction this way, it will appeal to multiple readers. I'm coming to the abstract now. Now, why abstract? The question comes. Once you know this, I think you will construct the abstract beautifully. Read this, the left side, you can write better when you perceive the purpose of the abstract. When you know the purpose, then you'll understand very clearly. Let me put it this way. Abstract is a brief summary or brief comprehensive. This is a very important thing. When you say brief cannot be comprehensive. But I'm using a sentence like this. This is a statement from a particular journal, American Psychological Association. Beautifully, they have phrased that. Brief, comprehensive summary. How is it possible? You have to be comprehensive. You have to give it brief, within 200 words, sometimes 150 words. How is it possible? It allows the reader to survey the contents. It's like, as I told, these are all marketing strategies. Now I am into the second phase. You are marketing your paper now. Survey the contents of an article quickly. They will read whether to go through the paper or not. They'll decide only looking at the abstract. And sometimes it is also useful for retrieving purposes also, indexing also. So if you know the purpose, marketing, not only marketing, for abstracting and also for indexing and retrieving articles, then you will write abstract beautifully. So this is very, very important. Know the purpose and hence you can write better. Now I'm giving you 3 components. Your abstract has to have a clarity. There should be any doubt. As I said, concise, within 200 words. And you should know the stakeholders. Whom to convince? Editor, reviewer, and the reader. There are 3 stakeholders you have to convince. So then if you know that the editor is going to view your abstract, then you'll try to write abstract in such a way. You'll try to develop the research question from your side and try to convince the editor and reviewer. And look at this. These are some of the ways you can try to. Now, to whom should it appeal? When you say the stakeholders, editor, reviewer, and reader, let me put one more slide to show you the stakeholders. Look at this. Sometimes you're sending it to the reviewer, sometimes for a funding agency, sometimes your presenters, your administrators, peers, where you try to present your abstract regarding your administration, sometimes conference organizers. So keep that stakeholders in mind, other stakeholders, then your writing will be clear. So know the purpose, know your stakeholders. Now, I have made a scaffolding here. Now, this scaffolding is not simply like how I did for introduction. Now, I have made it as a question. Can you write down these questions? I'll give time. Why did you do this research? If I ask you this, you will say, this research is very important. And you know that these people have not addressed this particular crisis, knowledge gap is there. And hence, it's very, very important. When you say that can form a first part of your abstract. Maybe you can devote 1 line for the significance. Sometimes if you have a space, you can use 2 lines. So the next question you have to ask, what did you do in this research? Okay, you can try to describe your research problem. You say, this is the research problem I've tried to address now. How did you do it? Maybe basic design. You can say, so I use this particular method. I have formulated a protocol, a very novel protocol, and I've used these variables. I use these conditions in order to achieve the target. So this can be a third part of your abstract. And 4th one, what did you find? Tell me. It can be trends, major findings, or novel findings, or unique findings. You can say, if it is a science, you can say, my work led to this particular finding. I found out that the trend is increasing or decreasing, or it is not, it is leveling off. And all those graphical things can be presented in 1 sentence. So that if someone who's not having accessibility to the full paper will try to understand your abstract and immediately say, somehow I want this paper, because it is trying to convince my own cognizance, where my own paper, my own research work also talks about this particular trend. Immediately I want the paper. So citation will be increased. So what did you find? It's very, very important step. And what does it mean? You can say conclusion. You can say, what does it imply? All those things can be part. So I ask these questions once again. Why did you do it? What did you do? How did you do it? What did you find? What does it mean? I remember when I started my research career, one of my research scholars came and asked me, sir, I do not know how to write my introduction. I do not know how to write my abstract. Then I remember, I have not read about this earlier, but I have experienced it. Somehow my intuition told me, why can't you make whole thing, organize it and sequence it in the form of questions and ask your student to fill it up? I tell you, it's a pedagogy which is very, very effective, where I found out within 1 day or 2 days, my student came back to me with a beautiful introduction and beautiful abstract, wherein all these questions are asked, and he himself took out the template out and he beautifully, with a seamless transition, he presented the abstract. I tell you, it's very powerful. Scaffolding is very powerful to begin with. It's like, it's a template. Once achumurukku vendadukku appuram the template veliya eduthurom. It's like initially it helps you, but don't try to keep this as a Bible forever. And always, whenever you write paper, don't write, why did you do? Wait, what did you do? How did you do? All those things you don't ask yourselves. It will automatically come from your within. So remember, this is the easy way to start your abstract writing business. And you are not supposed to do certain things, which I find in certain papers. Don't copy the sentence from the article. Always I see same sentence will be copied and pasted in abstract as well as in conclusion. Please don't do that. It provokes the reviewer. Next one, do not exceed beyond a prescribed number of words. Always very important. Certain journals follow a template where you can never exceed. So at that time, you will learn how to write in a briefer way. Don't include, avoid abbreviations. Sometimes you use all idiomatic things in your abstract. Please don't do that. And no reference. Sometimes I see the references in the abstract. Don't do that. Now, process, when will you write your abstract? As I said, I have already given you the cycle where abstract writing comes at the last. It's not at the beginning. You are starting with your figures and tables, and then you are moving on to the materials and methods and so on, and research and discussion and conclusion. Finally, you're coming to abstract. This is one school of thought, and I advocate this particular school of thought. Always you write your abstract at the end. Before that, you orchestrate it in your mind. You organize in your mind. That's very, very important. Any content which is organized in mind will have a beautiful flow when you write it in the paper. And scaffolding, I've given you purpose, problem, design, implications in the previous slide. And follow the same order in the abstract also. If you ask me what is abstract, simple way I'll tell you, write one sentence from introduction, write one sentence from materials and methods, write one sentence from research and discussion, write one sentence from conclusion. This is the easiest way. Same chronology is followed, but to be very specific, you can just follow the patterns I've given you. Ask these questions to your mind and try to answer those questions. And the one thing that I'd say, connect the keywords and title coherently. This is very, very important when you write. Don't try to use multiple keywords. If you select one particular keywords for your research work, okay, keywords is a separate title. It can be one particular seminar topic. Anyway, I'm confining to this particular thing to a limited extent, so I don't want to go further. So I'm giving you some examples here, worksheet for abstract. Look at this now. Organizers, can I take 5 more minutes? Will you permit me? Organizers?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going for a little bit faster. Look at this abstract. I have found out description of the research problem and knowledge gap have been given in one sentence. I think you are supposed to give it in 2 sentences. Very important. And basic design is given here. And reasonable speculation shows that it is a hypothesis. This is one abstract. Number 2 abstract, I've shown this here. Trends and major findings, the same abstract. Trends and major findings, he has shown concentrations, varying variables he has shown, and all those things are recorded here. And these results suggest that composites will be promising material for the biomedical. These are implications. What are the missing elements? Purpose of the study, knowledge gap not stated explicitly. Do the keywords title map? 2 keywords constitute the title predominantly. I can see here, strontium, hydroxyapatite, reduced graphene oxide, hydrothermal reduction, cytocompatibility. Look at the case title, strontium incorporated hydroxyapatite, hydrothermally reduced graphene oxide, nanocomposites, hydrocarbon. These are there. But remember one more thing, when you write a keyword need not be exactly from the title and abstract. Some 2 or 3 keywords can be from a general pool. That means keywords are nothing but hashtags. I think if I use this word hashtag, you will understand. Anyone who uses Instagram will know how to construct the hashtags. Most of the hashtags are already present over there. And if you want to construct a new hashtag, you have to construct a hashtag from the existing one. That is only having a validity. So remember, that way you can understand keywords. So you can have 3 keywords which are connected or mapped with the abstract and the title, and 2 keywords may be something which is marketable. Remember, keywords are very important when it comes to retrieving, indexing, and marketing. Now, one third abstract I've chosen from one more science. I'll also show some arts also. Here, significance is given in the first one. Basic design of the work is given. Trends and major findings are given here. Description of the research problem is given here. Missing elements, he has not talked about implications. No hypothesis there. No knowledge gap is presented. Keywords, morphology, highly ordered titania, galvanostatic anodization, potential static anodization, they are there in the title. Mapping is there. So your keyword and title can be mapped to 50 to 60%, and remaining keywords can be generated from the popular websites. Maybe the keywords that are being normally used by the researchers. And I'll give you, but there is no time for exercise. Here I have given a fill in the blanks. Okay, what are the missing elements? You have to find out. Look at, you have to read hydrogen sensing ability of annotates, titanium nanopowder are loaded with nanoparticles of platforms presented. You can say description of the problem, you can say, and look at this. They have trends and major findings, you can say. I've given a gap here. They talked about the surface area. And what is the third one? Screen printed, nanopowder thick film, exhibit linear response. You can fill in the gap here. Let me move on. Accounting forum, it's a paper here. Look at this, significance is talked about the first few lines. And conflict they've given. They say how the pressure to account for the biodiversity and loss is not just limited to corporate entities. This is what the knowledge gap they found out, conflict. So they are trying to take that as a research problem and they're working on. Aim is given over here sometimes. Implications are given. Basic designs are given. Here, tourist sustainable behavior and personal communications, other paper now. Look at description of the problem they're given. Informed personally and non-personally about the water savings potential. of their decisions about changing towels and bed linen. It's a simple tourist problem. Now look at this. Now trends and major findings are given and implications are given. Consumer behavior is maybe a keyword which is not found in the title. Sustainable behavior given. Consumer behavior is the one they have borrowed from the popular word. They have included that. Maybe it will be easier to understand. If you type in Google consumer behavior, you'll get a lot of papers. That's the way you can try to build the keywords. Keywords, as I said, what is keyword? Keyword is a controlled vocabulary. It can be called as taxonomy, it can be called tagging, it can be called as hashtags. So remember, if you know the purpose, you can easily construct or build keywords beautifully. That is very important for your citation. Remember, be careful in trying to build the keywords. They are used for cataloging purposes, they are used for tagging, indexing. So if you know the purpose, I think you'll build it properly. Title, I'm not spending much time. One that makes first impression with the editor, reviewer, and reader. Purpose of the title, determinant for indexing, visibility of the paper, and hence citation. So very important, you remember the purpose. When you know the purpose, sometimes we are very ambitious and we want to put everything in the paper in the title, and title will look like a paragraph. That is why I use this third line. It should be indicative rather than declarative in nature. You have to indicate every aspect. So title construction itself an exercise where you can take even one day in constructing a title. You write 10-15 titles and try to keep modifying. But one template is make your title in 14 to 16 words with space. 14 to 16 words in space. What you can do, go to the Microsoft where you can try to make a select and find out whether it is confining to 14 and 16 words or not. I think this is normally. Title can be a question also. Sometimes I have seen title with the questions. One of the questions that you asked me was that. It is very provoking and it will try to bring the reader to your paper quickly. Should reflect the essence and novelty of the work. Remember, your novelty should be a part of your title always. Don't try to sacrifice novelty. It reflects the research question and how to go about constructing the title. I think I'm not going to spend much time on this particular aspect. The last one is cover letter. Marketing strategy, last marketing strategy is this. Because of your cover letter is not being attractive, many of you lose your paper. Now remember, the poor cover letter is this. Dear editor, I am sending you a manuscript entitled so and so. We would like to have a manuscript considered for publication in pathobiology. Please let me know of your decision at your earliest convenience. Ordering, demanding the manuscript editor-in-chief. That's all, finished. Your cover letter makes the decision quickly. Cover letter to the editor. It's a marketing of research ideas and needs to have the following elements. Your objective of the work should be present over there. The relevance of the work related to the objectives and scope of the journal. You read the author's guidelines of the paper and see whether you can tune your paper, whether your paper is resonating with the relevance, the scope of the journal. Third one, relevant earlier publications in the journal. That means whether earlier publications have been there related to your own paper. You can show, dear editor, I have seen some of the papers related to my own manuscript in your journal already published. You can justify. How a manuscript fills the knowledge gap, justify. And include the checklist. Look at confirming. Sometimes you have to confirm no duplicate concurrent submissions have been made. Sometimes ethical considerations are there. You have to reconfirm that this manuscript has not been published elsewhere and is not under consideration by any other journal. Sometimes complying with authorship criteria. If all authors have approved the manuscript and agree with its submission, or the authors have no conflicts of interest, sometimes you have to recommend the reviewers. So these should be part of your cover letter. So when you prepare a cover letter, go to the Google and thinkscience.co.jp. That will give you a lot of guidance for cover letter. Or type cover letter, journal cover letter as a keyword in your Google. You will find out many cover letters. I'm showing you a good cover letter as a format here. So if you have a cover letter of this type, it will be very useful for you to market your paper. Thank you.
Wow. Professor?
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We had 3-4 questions in the beginning of your presentation.
Okay.
But in the later part, you really covered all those doubts raised by the participants.
Okay.
I have only one important question that was raised by one of the participants here.
Yeah.
How to decide an appropriate keyword for the abstract written for research work?
Yeah, super. I think I said I'm not spending much time here. How to design the appropriate keyword. See, keyword is a hashtag. When I said when I gave you a keyword for keyword or hashtag, I think if you are a regular user of social media, you'll find out certain keywords are already there in Google. Certain keywords are in the market. So when you build the keyword, remember that you have to make use of search. See, remember keywords. If you want to understand, if you take supposing if you try to hypothesize a keyword and try to Google it out, you will not find that particular paper of your choice. That means that is not a keyword at all. If you read the papers regularly, you will generate the keyword quickly. That's one way of getting the keyword, constructing or building the keyword. So once you read the keyword, if you go through the keyword parts, generally those keywords which are repeatedly being used by the community can be a keyword on your own. And if you say that, sir, my keyword cannot be generated from the existing one, you can construct a new keyword, but not absolutely new, but from the existing keyword. That means you have to have one word from the existing keyword and you have to add one more word and build a new keyword. So this is very important. If you ask me to test the ability of keyword, when you type the keyword in the Google or Science Direct or American Chemical Society or JSTAR or EBSCO, you have to get papers related to that. That's very important. So 5 keywords that you generate should give papers, very important. So when you do a literature survey, what were the keywords that you used in your literature survey can serve as a keyword. So these are the ways I can try to paraphrase and explain how to build the keywords. I think keyword generation itself, there's a keyword generator in the Google. You can find out keyword generator. That will give you a lot of possibilities, but they are very mechanical because artificial intelligence is used. That is not biological. So you can take that as a guideline, but don't try to make use of that because that is not going to help you. Keyword generator, type in Google, you'll get a keyword generator. So you type one particular aspect in the generator, it will give you equivalent keywords like a thesaurus. So then from there, you construct your keyword. It's an experience. We have to have one full session on that.
Thank you very much, Professor. The YouTube chat room is filled with words of appreciation to the participants.
Okay, thank you.
And on behalf of the management of Loyola College and organizers of this event, I would like to profusely thank you for the wonderful presentation you did this morning. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Over to Dr. J.Madhavan, Dean of Research.
Thank you, Dr. Milton. Now we move on to the second session. I am privileged to introduce Dr. Madhavan Jaccob, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, Loyola College. Dr. Jaccob did his PhD at Bharatdasan University and did his PDF at IIT Bombay. He was also a visiting research fellow at University of Heidelberg, Germany. His field of specialization is theoretical and computational chemistry. With major projects from DST, UGC, and Times of India, he had published 48 research papers with citations of 416. Many awards and distinctions can be listed under his name, which include Reverend Father Edanapalli Research Award, Inspire Faculty Award, and Young Scientist Award. Dalton Transactions, a reputed journal with an impact factor of more than 4, had featured one of his papers in their cover page, which demonstrates his ability in writing research paper. Now over to Jacob to talk on getting ready to publish. So Dr. Jacob is ready. Over to Jacob.
Yes, sir. Good morning to all. Thank you, Dr. J.Madhavan, Dean of Research, for introducing me. First of all, I extend my sincere thanks to Almighty God for this opportunity and blessings. A special mention to our respected principal, Reverend Dr. Thomas Samirdham, and Loyola College management for being the catalyst that stimulated us to do our best and standing as pillars of strength. Now I'm moving on to my presentation on getting ready to publish. In midst of this, we have received a lot of questions on the quality and the selection of the journal. It is not possible to list all the 10,000 questions raised by the participants. But I have categorized them into the following classes. How to publish a research paper in a quality journal. Secondly, how to select best unpaid journals for publication of research articles. Third one, how to choose the most appropriate journal for publication of our research work. Fourth one, what is Scopus and Web of Science indexed journals. Fifth one, how they are different from UGC CARE journals. Lastly, do you need to pay a very high amount to publish a high impact journal or not? With this, now I'm going to demonstrate the two globally accepted databases available to measure the quality of the journal. As I mentioned above, one is Scopus and another one is Web of Science. Scopus is the largest abstract and citation database of peer-reviewed literature, scientific journals, books, and conference proceedings. It is a product of Elsewhere. On the other hand, Web of Science is a database that provides a comprehensive citation data for many different academic disciplines. It was originally produced by the Institute for Scientific Information and is currently maintained by Clarivate Analytics. In this connection, now I am going to demonstrate how one can use these databases profitably to identify the good journal and the information related to the particular journal, and how to do the literature survey, how to choose a relevant journal for your research problem. Let me begin with my presentation on demonstrating Scopus. Here you can see this is a web page related to Scopus. In this particular web page, you can see the right top corner, there is a two icon where you can find one is called create account. The another one is sign in. When you click on create account, you can create your own account by providing your name, Gmail ID, everything. And also you can easily log in through your email address. So that now I already log in through these databases, so that I will take you to Scopus, in which you can see there are two important options. One is called search, another one is sources. In addition to that, there are other tools are available in order to make use of Scopus effectively. But I am not going to take much information about other tools. Only I am focusing on two important tools pertinent to the questions raised by participants. The one is called search, another one is sources. Okay, in which you can see in the source, when you click on source, I'm going to now you got the idea about by browse through documents, authors, application, and also in an advanced manner. So in order to facilitate effectiveness, I'm going to use a lens, that is a magnifier. Now you can see there is the option to browse through documents, authors, application. Now I'm going to use the documents things, and I'm going to browse coronavirus. This particular platform will help us to do our literature survey effectively, because the literature survey is very important when you need to acquire more confidence on your research work. And also it will help you to understand how your research topic is novel and adequate to society and benefit to all the community. So that it is very important to do the literature survey, that is a proper literature survey, in order to understand recent and latest development on our research area. Now, once you have the search result about coronavirus, now you can see there are 30,000 document journals published in this particular area. You know, in which the first one, when you go to the left side of the Scopus, you can see there is the option open access. The other, there are two categories. That what is mean by open access? You can freely access and you can download the manuscript published in the category of open access. Other, the category you have to download, you need to have the proper access to download. You can see the next one is year. The year which will help you to understand how many publication is published in the particular year. You can see in 2020, after the pandemic spread of coronavirus, there are several researchers across the globe. They are interested in doing research on coronavirus, so that the volume of publishing is enormous. You can see from 851 to 12,121. This is the way we can understand how pertinent our research area, how novel, how important. Now I am going to give you the specific information about how to understand the latest development by clicking Analyze Search Result, which is available in the top of the articles. Now you can see there is a year-wise publication list which is available, and also documents by year. From this information, one should easily understood that one can understand that which year the coronavirus journal is published, and then what are the journal is started in 2020. You can click on this, and then you can see here, you can find the first ever paper which is appeared in 2020. For example, the recent one is published by Pius P. That is in the journal called Global Health Action. This will help us to understand how latest our research topic. And also when you go back to Scopus, you can see the other option also. Now you can see in 1951, that is the first ever paper which is appeared in terms of coronavirus in the name of called Newcastle disease. So that based on these particular search option available in the Scopus, one should understand when the particular research topic or the research question is started among the global community. And also when the recent paper, very latest paper is published in the particular research topic, whichever I have chosen. So that I request all the participants to understand how to make use of Scopus in order to do the effective literature survey, to make yourself confident on what you are doing. The next option is sources. Why should I do this particular tool? Why should I need to use this tool? You can see this sources option which is available in the top of the Scopus web page. You can see, and which why we need this one. Some people rise to the question that is there any journal, any high quality journal, any standard journal available for our subject area? My dear friends, I am telling you, the Scopus covers nearly 22,794 journals from approximately 11,678 publishers in top 20 subject field, covering social sciences, history, commerce, economics, chemistry, physics, etc. So that you can't say, I don't have the journals in my subject area. I want to bring the important note. என்ன வளம் இல்லை இந்த திருநாட்டில் ஏன் கையை வேண்ட வேண்டும் அத அடுத்தவர்கள் கையில் என்று சொல்வதை போல், here I can make sure that you got the plenty of option to publish your research work by knowing the things through Scopus. You can see, as I mentioned here, when you enter your subject area, it will give you the 20 sub-disciplines. As I mentioned just before, it is giving all kind of subject discipline. It is about 22,000 journals. For example, now I'm going to take you how many journals available for the history. So history, when you click history, which comes under arts and humanities, you can see there are two ways, history and philosophy of science. So I'm clicking both the things and apply. Now you can see there are 1581 journals available for publishing your work in history related subject area. As well as I'm going to take you the another subject which is nothing but language and linguistics. You can see there are two classification in the broad subject area, namely social sciences, arts and humanities. Apply this, and then you can see there are 2319 journals available for publishing your journal in publishing your manuscript in the Scopus based high quality journals. You can click on Journal of Communication. By clicking on this, you can see it will give you the information about all the journal information and all the things. So this will help you. From this, one should understand you have the plenty of option in all the subject disciplines. Scopus provide the opportunity to publish your research work in high quality, well-known, standard, peer-reviewed journal of international repute. So I am sure that everyone understand that from this demonstration, all of you know how to do your literature survey, especially know about the recent and latest development on our research problem. Also, you realized today that you have good quality journal to publish your subject area. So that I asked you to utilize the Scopus database effectively in terms of gain confidence on doing high quality research work and publish in quality, good quality journal rather than the predatory journal. So that with this information, I conclude the usage of Scopus in order to do the literature survey and try to know what are the journals available on your subject area. Now I am going to take you into other database which is known as Web of Science, which will give you the quality and merit of your paper. So if you want to standardize or if you want to know the quality of your journal, how quality, what is the merit of your journal, that can be understood by Web of Science. You can see, as you mentioned in the Scopus demonstration, you can also create your free account by giving email and other details, and you can create your own account by providing the necessary detail, email address, password, first name and last name. Also, you can log in through Facebook, Gmail, LinkedIn, and all other details. So now I am going to take you to Web of Science. I already log in through the Web of Science. You can provide my email ID. So I am clicking on Gmail. Yeah, now I successfully log in into the Web of Science. What is the beauty behind Web of Science? Okay, this particular database provide impact factor, so that if you don't have your journal, whichever you go published in this particular database, that means the journal you published is not a good journal or a standard journal. Suppose, okay, now I'm going to type some journal name, Journal of Chemistry, for example. By using this search journal option, okay, by clicking on this search journal option, you click on this. This will help you to understand whether my published journal is present in the Web of Science indexed database. Now I'm going to type For example, Journal of Chemistry. See, there is a journal in name of Journal of Chemistry. Now I am very happy that whatever the journal I have published, which is indexed with the Web of Science, so that it is also even it's having some minimum impact factor. You can't worry about that because your journal will present in Web of Science. So that somebody asked me whether these Web of Science and the Scopus indexed journals is linked with the UGC CARE list. That is always the people having the doubt on this. You don't worry. Whichever the journal which is indexed with the Scopus and Web of Science is also placed in UGC CARE list, because these two databases only provide the global ranking, globally accepted database, which is also encrypted by the UGC CARE list. So if you find your journal, whatever the work you published in the Scopus indexed data journal or Web of Science, it is also placed in the UGC CARE list. So don't worry about this. Now I am going to help you in more detail. I am going to search with the Journal of Chemistry, that is the view profile page, by clicking on this. Now you can see, which will give you the idea about journal website, in which you can click on visit site. So now you can see, once you click on the particular journal website, you can have the idea about what is the acceptance rate, submission to final decision, acceptance to publication, site score, and the impact factor. What is the beauty behind this? There are two important points I would like to mention here. One is, somebody gave me the answer in what way you are submitting your manuscript to the publisher. They said, we are submitting through email and CD mailer. My dear friends, I am telling you, if you are sending your manuscript by email or CD mailer, it is not a good quality journal. In order to submit your journal, you should have the option called submission portal, where you have to submit your journal through Manuscript General only. You can't go other web page. You can submit your journal only through manuscriptcentral.com, in which you have to submit your manuscript by creating your username and password, and then you submit your journal by mentioning all kind of details, so that if you send your manuscript through email or CD mailer, that publisher is not at all a good quality journal. So that I am humbly request you, don't send such a way by sending your manuscript through email or CD mailer, so that you have to use the proper platform where you can submit your journal. You can also go through the another one if you want. I will take you the one more thing. You can see ACS medicinal chemistry letter. I am going to take you this one, in which you can see the visit site. Now you can see you have all the information pertinent to particular journal information. Now I am going to take you, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to submit your journal in the particular platform. 1 minute. So you have to create your username in a ACS Manuscript Central by submitting your journal, as well as by creating username and password by providing all the things. So this is a very important thing. You have to do it. You can see here the submit manuscript. By clicking here, it will open to ACS Paragon plus .acs.org. This will give you the platform where you can submit your manuscript without any problem. That means your submission is authenticated. Whatever the journal website you are submitting, that is a good quality, They are maintaining the high standard journal. Okay. Now, and also many people asked me, I have the journal, sir. I have the manuscript. I have completed my research work. I have some data on this. I have my manuscript is ready, but I don't know where to publish. In what way I should identify my proper journal, my suitable journal, where I can place my manuscript to the particular place. So in this way, Web of Science providing the unique tool to identify yourself where to publish my research work, so that it is not very difficult task. Now you go through Match Manuscript, that is available in the top of the Scopus Web of Science web page. You can see search journal and then Match Manuscript. Now this information will give you two important things. For that, you should give title and abstract. Okay. Now I am having my manuscript which is ready. I wrote successfully without any problem, but I don't know where to submit the journal. This is abstract. This is the title I have provided. So I am copying the title of the particular manuscript whichever I have written. I'm pasted here. Now I'm going to copy the abstract. So copy here. Now, within fraction of seconds, you will get the idea where I am going to submit my paper. In what way I will identify. See, now I got some information about 36 journals available for my research work. Very, very happy news for me, because there are 36 journals which will help me to publish my research work in a high quality standard journal. So the first one, which will give you the idea, you can see here, match score. That is about 99% matching exactly with the title and abstract whichever I have provided. Okay, now I am going to also show you the other journal, Molecules. It is about 84%. I am very happy now. And also you can see there are 35%, only 35. So that now I am going to take you into the journal whichever having the more percentage, that is about 99%. Click on this by clicking View Profile Page. Now you can see some information. I'm going to take you visit the particular site. Okay, wait. Now you can see this is a journal which I have the 99% matching. Okay, there are information about my journal. You can also understand the aim and scope, instruction for authors, journal information, editorial forward. Okay, journal home page. So this will give you the idea about what are the journal available and what are the manuscript is published recently. This will give you the idea. So that don't worry, my dear friends, if you have the research work completed, you have the manuscript is ready with you, don't worry. You go with the search match manuscript and try to do your matching, and then you can understand the details about what is a journal is specifically suitable for me. Okay, now I will also place you a record in respect to related to match manuscript. You have other option, not only Web of Science, is also Web of Springer, Wiley, and elsewhere, providing the option to find the journal, that is called Journal Finder. You can have the option, the same thing you can do it with the elsewhere, Springer, Scope, Wiley. So now I am going to take you Journal Finder in the elsewhere website. So it is nothing but journalfinder.elsewhere.com. You can see here journalfinder.elsewhere.com. So what is the difference between Web of Science Journal Finder and elsewhere Journal Finder? You can see here In the Web of Science, you can provide only title and abstract. But in this particular elsewhere, where you can provide title, abstract, keyword, also field of research. Even now, I'm going to paste my abstract as I have already copied. And also, I like to paste my title, whichever I have prepared. So now it's ready. Okay, I don't want to give other detail. If you like to do, you can do it. No issues. Now find journal. You can see there are 50 journals matching your paper, in which the particular journal called Computational Biology and Chemistry is matching exactly 100%. You can see each bar is indicating 20%. That means 100%. Also, the other journal, Informatics in Medicine Unlocked, it's also matching 100%. Oh, I am very happy. Even also you can see Microbial Pathogenesis is also matching 100%. Bioorganic and Medicinal Journal of King South University Science, Phytochemistry, Computational and Structural Biotechnology Journal, Acta Pharmaceutica, Synesia B, Phytomedicine, Journal of Functional Foods. These journals are giving 100%. But the Brazilian Journal of Pharmacogenesis is giving only 80%. Now I am very happy. You can see you have the journal. You can publish wherever you want. Now, here I want to give you some information, some important information pertinent to the journal quality and accuracy. You know, the first one, whichever is placed in front of you, it is Computational Biology and Chemistry, in which you can see the impact factor and site score. These information will be provided by tomorrow's speaker, Dr. R. Vijay Solomon. He will give you about all kind of information. I'm not going to give you much information about the journal metrics. I'm going to give you about the time to publication. How long it will take to publish my manuscript into the journal. That's very important. You can see here the first important parameter is called acceptance rate. It is about 17%. What it indicates? 17% means if you submit, if the journal is submitted by 100 papers, they will accept only 17 papers out of 100 papers. That means they will scrutinize in a very high quality manner by rejecting 83 papers which is having the poor quality. So that it is very important to enhance our quality by seeing the acceptance rate. But when you come to the other journal, you can see, I'm coming to the next journal, you can see the 55% acceptance rate. That means what it indicates? It is about, if you submit 100 papers, they will accept 55 papers out of 100. And also it is not given any impact factor, but don't worry, it is having some site score. So that you don't need to worry about this, because these journals are already indexed with the Scopus and Web of Science. You don't need to worry about these things. Okay. Now, other important two parameter which will help you to know how long your paper will be published in elsewhere or anywhere. Now you can see time to first decision 9 weeks, time to publication 4 weeks. That means this particular journal will take 13 weeks to publish your paper by coming your publication in online. So that when you submit today, they will take first decision after 9 weeks. It's about 2 months, 1 week. So it will take lot of time. After take first decision, whether they are going to ask you to revise or reject, they will take another 4 weeks to publish your paper. When you come down, little bit. Even this journal is also took 12 weeks. And also this another journal is also taking 8 weeks. That means 2 months, which will give the quickest time. Most of you asked this question, how quick I can submit my paper and publish. So this particular information will give you idea about how one can publish your paper quickly by doing the search in elsewhere by using journal finder tool. You can see the journal called phytochemistry will take only 7 weeks, that is less than 2 months, so that you have to choose your pertinent time. See, you can see Acta Pharmaceutica Sinecia B, it will take 25 weeks, nearly 6 months. You have to wait for your journal to be published. So that here this option you can see, which is a very, very quickest ever journal, will help you to publish your research work within 7 weeks. 1 month it will take to give the decision on the first decision, and then 3 weeks he will give you to publish your paper, so that it will also a very high impact factor. This way one can understand how to use the journal finder effectively by make use of these opportunity to publish your research work in a high quality journal. So that, my dear participants, I request all of you to use all of these information and try to publish your research work in an effective and high quality journal. With this conclusion, with this demonstration, I conclude with the famous note by Michael Faraday. He is a well-known English chemist and physicist, natural philosopher. When his junior asked about his success in inventing so many chemistry and physics related phenomena, he said the secret is comprised in 3 words: work, finish, and publish. This is a very important 3 secret words. You have to keep it in your mind. You have to do work properly by doing the proper literature survey, by using all the demonstration I have made. Once you finish this and then write the paper appropriately, whatever the way Dr. P.Wilson suggested you come up with those information, and then you search with the appropriate journal, whatever the way I have demonstrated just now, and then publish, enjoy. This is the one I would like to briefly conclude you. In this connection, I would like to acknowledge whatever I am speaking in front of you, whatever I gained in terms of research last 15 years. These 3 stalwarts made me to standing in front of you in such a huge confidence, in such a big manner. So that I humbly salute my research supervisor, Professor P. Venunalingam, Emeritus Scientist, Bharadasan University. He is a mentor, he is a guide, he is a father-like person who molded me in all the way. The another very important person, Professor Dr. Gopalan Rajaraman, who is a brother for me. He gave all kind of inspiration, motivation throughout my research career, not only from my PhD period. He gave the strong confidence, enough interest, motivation, all the things. Whatever I am speaking in front of you, I have gained from Rajaraman. And also the last one is nothing but Professor Peter Komba. He is my internship where I have visited my PhD doctoral research area, where I have did my research in his research lab, so that he learned me lot in terms of so many things in research. So finally, I thank management of Loyola College, who gave the appropriate and proper freedom to execute myself in terms of whatever the way I would like to do in research. Thank you one and all for listen my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jacob. There is one question from the participant.
Yes, sir.
Do we have to pay to publish in Scopus?
Yes, if you like to publish in open access article, you have to pay your money, because that money is utilized for giving the free access to the global audience. So that if you want to publish in an open access journal, you should pay some money. But in all the aspect, you can see the in the particular thing, when you go to the any journal finder, that particular information is given. 1 minute. Here I have mentioned in which you can see in the top they have mentioned open access. In order to publish in open access journal, you have to provide money. So other than that, you don't need to pay any money on this. Here you can see there is a mention about open access. This particular journal, Computational Biology and Chemistry, is an open access journal. In order to publish in this particular journal, you have to pay $2,060. But other journal, you don't need to pay anything. You can see you don't need to pay anything. They given subscription as well as open access. But in this particular journal, they have mentioned clearly about gold open access. So that here also they mentioned about the amount whichever you want to pay. So that what I am suggesting you have to choose whether this particular journal is open access or subscription based. If it is subscription based, you don't need to pay anything. You simply submit your high quality paper, and then they will critically evaluate your manuscript, and then they will accept.
Thank you, Dr. Jacob. On behalf of the management of Loyola College and the organizers of the webinar, I would like to profusely thank Dr. Madhavan Jaccob for his wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Participants of the webinar, and many have asked questions related to UGC CARE list of journals, and that particular part of publication is going to be addressed by Dr. Solomon from Madras Christian College. Tomorrow he will give a comprehensive account on UGC CARE list of journals where you can publish your papers. And this is the YouTube link for day 2. And for further information on the webinar, you can visit loyolacollege.edu. The feedback and question link will be enabled tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. It will be open only for 1 hour. Attendees alone will receive certificates. So with this bit of information, I would like to say goodbye to all of you. Thank you so much for showing interest to participate in this most interesting webinar on research methodology organized by the Dean of Research Office, Loyola College. Thank you, and all.